being able to do a webinar like this where you can actually have a slide that answers the question that was posed in the topic of the webinar. What is the secret to success in distributed marketing environments? Well, if we look at top performers in the research, the secret is that top performers empower marketers through increased communication and autonomy in the back office. They're very focused at creating an infrastructure that makes the messages that are going out more relevant, more personal, and more efficient. And so, yes, they're still focused on how do we expand the number of channels and integrate data across channels, but they're also focused on how do we deliver more relevant and personalized messages to target audiences by improving internal processes. And I think that's what you see from top performers that you don't see as much from everyone else in the survey results. And so what does this look like? Well, the core focus for top performers, and by the way, if you stare at this image on the left, you will go blind, so just focus on the text. I didn't know that before I put this together. Basically, the focus of top performers is, we're really good at a few channels, so let's get better at those channels. Let's improve. Let's cut the fat in the back end. Let's make ourselves more efficient. Let's seed those decisions about our creative with information about what's going on in the channels. They empower the field and maintain control of the brand at the corporate level. And that's, of course, the audacious goal for direct distributed marketers, but we're going to find out exactly how they do that. And they improve efficiency, message continuity, and collaboration at the same time. And what this actually looks like when you apply this to the marketing value chain, and what I like to call the 2 degrees of separation to revenue for top performers, they're taking that creative idea, they're putting it through an optimized marketing process, and then they're pushing it through the channels that they're very good at, that they know they have an audience there, they have already captured, that they have preference to receive communications in those channels. You're going to be able to impact revenue a lot more effectively rather than trying to blanket your messaging across different channels that you may not even be good at to begin with. So now let's dive into some data, because this is actually, and you'll get this from, all of the statistics are from this report that you can download down at the bottom of the screen here. But if we look at top performers and how they rank their challenges, they tend to rank them differently than everyone else. And I think that what we're seeing in 2010 and 2011 is really that the challenges demonstrate a focus on operational improvement, ultimately. And the things that they ranked as the most challenging aspects and the things that they're basically trying to address for the organization with their initiatives, it's balancing the conflicting needs of local marketers and corporate marketing, very focused on how do we align these two. Let's not just accept that there's going to be challenges because of our environment. Let's fix the problem. Changing legacy processes and technologies. I thought this was very interesting that this was the second most prevalent answer for a top performer. And it's, some of the technologies that you invested in 5 to 10 years ago, they just don't cut it anymore in this environment, and they're just not capable of delivering a relevant communication and really empowering the back end of the workflow processes with the tools they need. And so they're very focused on that. And then managing the use of centralized tool at a local level. Mandating. And actually, I think we have to be careful with this word mandating, because it's not about putting any tool in and mandating the use of that tool. It's about putting tools that empower local marketers and corporate marketing in place and then mandating the use of those tools. So, because we're also seeing top performers focused on reducing the number of tools that are supporting the organization. There's no point in having redundant tools. From a value driver standpoint, and value drivers in Gleanster's research are defined by the different capabilities, processes, organizational capabilities that basically make these initiatives return a higher return on investment, so generate a higher return on investment. And what we see from top performers is they're really focused. They say, okay, if those are our challenges, here's what we're doing to address those challenges. And so the two I want to point out here are number one, it feels like they're very dedicated to bridging the gap in back office operation, increased communication between corporate and local marketers. That was a challenge, but that's also what they're focused on. They're empowering the organization with tools to do that. And then create standardized processes for customizing corporate collateral. So again, this kind of goes back to, and to me, this speaks very well to this idea of a dynamic piece of content that basically is a template that can be locked, and pieces of that content can be changed. We're already doing that on the web, and we're even doing that on email now. I mean, there are email providers who can deliver email, and you can change the email up to the point that the user opens it. Very incredible stuff going on. But those are the changes that we need to make as organizations to really improve our relevance of our communications and especially in a localized marketing environment. I thought what was interesting is that one of the lower or less important things that best or top performing companies were focused on was to automate digital asset creation and approval. And when you dive into it and you actually look at the tools they're leveraging, it becomes very clear that they've already put the effort and the energy into these investments. So, it's pretty insightful to see that everyone else is 3 times more likely to struggle with digital asset creation and approval. Workflow processes aren't there. It's very manual. It's very inefficient. You don't have the ability to have a line of communication that's consistent between the local marketing group and corporate marketing. And because of that, what you see is 73% of top performers report reduction in agency spend over the last 12 months. And this has been a huge initiative we've seen in multiple reports that companies are really starting to reduce the outsource of their digital asset management to agencies. It's very expensive. You're basically contacting them to get you access, and you're paying them to send you a document that you already paid for. And so if you can bring that in-house and let the agency connect with your in-house digital asset management system, or the agency connect to the dynamic capabilities, then you're empowering everyone, including the field, with a centralized tool versus just having this kind of disparate capabilities out there. So what kind of technology are top performers using in the back office? This comes directly from the Marketing Asset Management report that you can read. Obviously, there are other technologies that aren't included here: marketing resource management, workflow, campaign management. This is really very skewed more towards digital asset management. But I think if we look at the kind of technologies that, one, top performers are currently using, and two, that they're planning on using or in the process of implementing, it really paints a very cohesive picture about how organizations can improve back office operations. And the first one being the searchable access to digital content. You got to level the playing field. I mean, your customers, your target audience, they have searchable access to information 24/7. So your organization needs the same thing, to be dynamic, to be able to adapt as quickly as the market can change. And so I think that a lot of organizations, we live in the age of Google, where anything is searchable. It makes sense to move down this path, especially if you're looking at the reuse of assets, or how do we find assets. It starts to make sense. Automated workflow for local marketing execution. Again, empowering local and corporate marketing with one communication process. So kind of bridge that gap between the two. And what that also does is bridges the gap between marketing management and customer engagement, so that you can align those two. And then use of marketing asset management and digital asset management. And I think what we see in the data is, marketing asset management is very much an emerging technology. And the way I define this is marketing asset management technologies were designed for marketers, with marketers in mind. They're providing capabilities that integrate with workflow, that integrate with creative tools, search access to searchable access to digital data. Whereas a digital asset management tool is typically a repository, maybe not built for marketing, and oftentimes used by marketers. I mean, this has been the tool of choice for years. And for any organization that's now looking, if you look at top performers who are saying, yeah, we're looking at pulling out some of the systems that aren't working, it seems like digital asset management should work, but it doesn't work for marketing because it's not relevant to them. It doesn't give them that workflow and work within their processes. So something to think about. And then finally, rich media and centralization. I think that's kind of taking up the rear, especially for top performing organizations who are starting to engage in these other channels, which they openly admit they're not great at, but they're doing it. So you got to put this in place, because those other channels, like video, for example, is probably going to take over our traditional messaging in a few years. I mean, we're probably going to be watching videos that are advertisements that would have otherwise been, a static ad. So something to think about as you scale the organization. We see top performers far more likely to, currently use or plan to use that than everyone else.